Hello and welcome to vRealize Automation 7, Introduction to the Event Broker and Making VRA 7 Operate Like VRA 6. My name is Gary Coburn. For those of you who don't know me, I am the owner-operator of extendingclouds.com, which is likely where you found this. So please feel free to share any feedback or follow me on Twitter, LinkedIn, and extendingclouds.com. Thanks very much for taking a look at this, and hopefully you will be as excited as I am about the advancements in VRA 7, specifically with the Event Broker, which I've spent some time with. So let's talk about our goals today. Our goals today are to make VRA operate like VRA 6. Actually, that isn't entirely true, but most of you who are here watching this have experience with VRA 6 and understand the standard state changes that are available to you for VRA 6. So you understood assigning the state changes, you understood how properties were passed, and you executed a number of third-party calls off of that. We'll do a brief kind of overview of that for those of you who don't know. And then we will walk you through configuring VRA 7 because the Event Broker changes how the communication happens, enhances it to a great deal. We'll also introduce you to what the Event Broker is and why it's so valuable. So without further ado, let's step right in. What is the Event Broker? So the Event Broker today, as introduced, is a subscription-based model rather than an assignment-based model. The key to it is that we can create subscription based on any number of things, up to and including approvals, blueprint changes, machine lifecycle, machine provisioning, and a whole bunch of additional functionality based on machine provisioning. So the key overview is it's going to be really quick to get up and to get valuable. If you have VRA 6 today and you want to kind of plug this in and test it next to it in your lab environment, being able to take those workflows that were in VRA 6, adjust the workflow template a little bit to meet the requirements, and boom, you'll be ready to go. So it's really, really powerful. It also enhances the extensibility by allowing you to run multiple workflows at any given state change. So we'll touch on this a little bit when we walk through, but the idea of the life cycle events in the past has been mostly assign a single workflow to things, and now you can assign multiple ones. We've also enhanced it so that additional state changes are available. So rather than the major ones that are sitting out there today, we've enhanced it and expanded those to have multiple states within them, and we've also enhanced other workflows that previously weren't available to you without some kind of extension of the solution of the product itself. So the key is that we want to provide easy access to subscription-based policy model with no additional development tools. In the past it utilized CDK or Common Component Catalog, no additional professional services, no deep knowledge of the core functionality, just simple subscription model to take advantage of. We also wanted it to be scalable because one of the challenges before was that every property was passed anytime the communication happened between the two products, VRO and VRA that is. So now we have a scalable model that allows you to pass only the details that you want to pass between the two on execution. Today, again, the goal of today's is to enable you to pass the entire payload, like all of the custom properties. But the idea is that first we enable you to consume things like you did in VRA 6, and then we'll work our way directly backwards and give you the functionality to take advantage of all of the extra pieces to say, hey, I only want to grab host name or I only want to grab IP address, in which case you may choose to change the workflows to meet the needs of those particular, which will make it more scalable. A high-level architecture, basically the best way to look at it is our event broker has been layered on top of all of the components and is the flow path for everything that goes into or out of VRA. So infrastructure as a service, identity, approvals, software services, all go through a message queue. That message queue then goes and executes the vRealize orchestrator workflows that need to be taken advantage of to go do whatever it is at those times. So very, very powerful system. So how does this differ from previous versions? Well, first let's make sure everybody has the same key understandings. I have delivered this message 1,000 times over the last couple of years. But this is really kind of the key tenet to the power of vRealize automation. It's the idea that at any given state change, request, building, provision, approval, management constructs, retire, and archive, we can go out and execute any number of orchestration tasks. Those orchestration tasks then give you the ability to take advantage of any third-party communication. So in these examples, you see DNS and IPAM, you see CMDBs, you see work orders, you see custom scripts. The idea is that at any given state, we can go execute a number of commands based on vRealize orchestrator plugins and capabilities. So with that understanding, let's at least highlight what a OnProvisioning example might look like in VRA 6 so that you at least have an understanding of what things looked like. So this is a workflow that myself and a coworker pulled together for a very specific customer proof of concept. And as you notice, we basically pull in a parameter that is display inputs, and then we make all kinds of decisions and run all kinds of additional workflows and walk our way through this entire process, rebooting systems a couple of times, configuring things a couple of times, and generally speaking, this was a single workflow that once provisioning was complete, it would go and run this in order to register and calculate and run a number of things within the domain and on SCCM specifically. So the important part about this is that this took us generally 25 minutes to run every time it ran. If it failed, we had challenges, and it could have failed anywhere in this state, and we'd have to go back through and adjust and change things. Additionally, to make this work in VRA 6, the products weren't as closely intertwined as they are in VRA 7, so we actually had to create the connectivity, install the customization, create that massive workflow that we're going to assign to a very specific state change. It's important to note, without Common Component Catalog or CDK or some kind of professional services, without some kind of customization, the tool in and of itself with version 6 and before was basically one of those that you created a single workflow assigned per state change. So each one of these different footprints that are available to you, the 6 of them that are available, you could only run one workflow, which is why we had workflows that looked much like this in those days. I've heard from customers that in some instances that made it hard to productionalize and difficult to upgrade. So with that, these are the state changes as they're introduced in VRA 7. So those 6 translate to these 28 workflow callouts that you can do. As you might imagine, it becomes much more powerful because you have a number of additional events. Not to mention you can subscribe workflows to multiple different constructs. So I may have 2 workflows that run at the same time at requested pre, for example. So without further ado, let's step into the environment a little bit. This is your VRA workflow example that you can download from Dropbox and is on extendingclouds.com. These have all the standard workflows in them that you may want to take advantage of. This Get Custom Properties example is identical to what would be the workflow template. And it's worth note that we have one property versus all of these properties that you had to pull in and adjust with. So very, very big enhancements as you can see. So with that, let's step back into our environment. First things first, we need to make sure that our endpoint is configured and available, so that VRO has been configured and is that's all you need to do to make the two connect. Next, we will step in and actually create a property group, which is identical to a build profile. This property group is the key state changes. I only have one tenant, but I could subscribe to a number of put this to a number of tenants. I'm going to copy and paste these. So this is an example of request, and we'll set a value of star. I have the 6 major state change examples here so that you can take advantage of each one of those. We're setting a value of star because we want to pull all of the custom properties in from each of these. And I'm also making this overwritable, as we may choose to pass a different set of parameters for each individual state change at request time, for example. So just to take a look, we've got each one of those configured, we've got the value set to star, and it is something we can take advantage of. Now we'll go to the actual design tab of our blueprints. We'll go to our CentOS template that we want to assign these state changes for. We'll go to the properties, we'll add a property group. And as you can see, I can look at all of the merged properties so that you can take advantage of evaluating what they all look like here. Now we'll go back to administration. We'll go to our events, subscriptions, and we'll create a new subscription. Again, value prop, we can go through and take advantage of any of these different things like blueprint configuration or group change configuration, life cycles. Again, our goal is to focus on creating this for updating VRA 6 or looking identical to VRA 6. We have the power to go in and allocate things like decisions on blueprint name or lifecycle state or machine state or machine name. So we can make logic based on any of those things. We're going to run on all events for this particular event. We're going to subscribe to the Get Custom Properties example. We can block it so that nothing else executes. We'll save and we'll publish. Alright, next, since we've actually created this, published it, we will go to our catalog item. We'll go into the CentOS that we allocated. Just to view, we'll see the properties that exist out there. And for the sake of illustrating, we will change this to __. And those are the only values we want. Again, this may be something that as you start to subscribe to other events, hostname or IP or network components or things that you would want to update, things get much easier to consume, and you can choose to pass only very specific, say your own custom parameters, for example. So for the sake of this, we will illustrate the use case of just passing that parameter at request time. Alright, we've submitted our request. It's going through the process. I will make sure to have links available for you guys for both the event state change and the event broker PowerPoint so that you can take advantage of evaluating those. Let's go into... So as you can see, we've started to execute our getting custom properties example. It's passing the payload in as a set of properties. Now you'll notice the state is on requested and pre. So there is a state and a phase. So you may choose to run a pre event and workflow that calculates something on request time. And if it fails, the actual provisioning will fail. However, if you go to the event or post requested, you can actually fail said workflow and provisioning will continue. So this is some of the power as you start to look at this, so that things don't just fail like they did in version 6 and then you have to go through and say, well, I wanted that machine up to test this or to test that. So it gives you the capability. The other thing worth note here is your VCAC VM properties. Should be VRA VM properties, but you'll notice that it is all the underscores. So on my request, if you recall, I set star underscore underscore star, which means I passed just these custom properties. If I step into waiting to build, for example, you'll notice that my properties is non-existent. So it actually doesn't execute anything. It doesn't pass any properties, makes it very scalable, makes it very lightweight, so that when you go to execute the additional functionality at any given time, you choose what you pass to this. Waiting to build post, cloning the machine, and there's our building machine with the phase of pre, and you'll notice every one of the custom VCAC VM properties. I've got all of my extensibility properties. I've got every one of the custom properties that are default virtual machine. I've got the VRM proxy, and I've got each of the underscore hidden values. So again, the key here is that we're illustrating the value of each of these different constructs and how lightweight and portable this can be and how you can subscribe to those different components. This was entirely around getting you ready and taking advantage of things like you do in version 6. So I hope you got out of this the ability to assign those 6 state changes and execute different workflows on those 6 state changes. I will also have a link. Again, you'll have these workflows, but generally speaking, I'll have a link to this exact scriptable task so that you can take advantage of seeing exactly what we're exporting out. And in session 2 and 3, we'll break up the next steps, where session 2 we will execute an install, and we may or may not choose MySQL. I may enhance this so that you can take advantage of other things. In session 3, we'll actually talk about how to update a specific component. So again, just so you know, VRA 6, we had a very specific way how you would want to create an entity, update an entity, take advantage of those things. You'll notice that my update hostname has one very specific property that I set on output. So again, the flexibility and the power of the event broker really start to come to shape when you start to look at these different components. Thanks for watching. Follow me on extendingclouds.com and Coburn Gary at Twitter. Feel free to add me at LinkedIn. Again, any feedback, questions, thoughts, please feel free to let me know. This will be posted both in video format as well as a breakdown step-by-step guide in extendingclouds.com. Have a great one.